Dateline London, I'm Jane Hill. This week we are discussing an extraordinary few days in Spain. What next for Catalonia? And in China as well, is President Xi Jinping preparing to rule well beyond the usual 10-year term? And what could that mean for all of us? My guests this week: Celia Maza de Pablo from La Razón, Stephanie Baker from Bloomberg News, Thomas Kielinger from Die Welt, and the CEO of China Dialogue, Isabel Hilton. A warm welcome to all of you. So, a huge amount to discuss this week. What an extraordinary period we are witnessing in Spain. The Catalonian Parliament voted to declare independence on Friday, prompting the government in Madrid to strip the region of its powers, remove the Catalan leader and fire senior police. Fresh elections have been scheduled for December. Demonstrations for and against independence went on into the night, with doubtless more to come in the coming days. Celia, what is your reading? What on earth happens next?
Well, this is completely an unprecedented situation. On one hand, we have a region of Spain, Catalonia, who has just declared unilaterally the independence, and we have a central government that for the first time in Spain history is going to apply Article 155 in order to take control of the Catalonia government and to hold the 21st December election. So let me start explaining, because I think it's very important the way that the Catalan Parliament approved yesterday this declaration of independence. Half of the chamber was empty, and the members of the separatist parties vote secretly because they know that they could face charge up to 30 years in prison. So right now they don't have the consensus of the social Catalonia, they don't have the support of the international community, they don't have the control of the territory, they don't have the control of the economy. All the key factors that we have seen over the years with other independence process over the world, they are not present in the Catalonian process. But having said that, as you say, what happened next?
Yeah, what does Madrid do? We know what they say it's going to do. It sacked the police chiefs already, factors like that. But the risks are very high here. Everybody watching will remember, God forbid, the violence that transpired on the 1st of October.
We have to see how the separatist parties are going to present this next Catalan election, because I think it's quite important to see, first of all, what is going to be the legal situation of the leaders of the separatist parties by the 21st of December. The Spanish prosecutor said that on Monday will file charges of rebellion against the leaders of these parties. So maybe there is one possibility to see these people in prison by the 21st of December. We have to see if the separatist parties are going to boycott this election. We have to see if the separatist parties are going to introduce this election at the first election of Republic of Catalonia. So obviously this is going to be a very important election, but as you say, before this election, we have almost 2 months ahead when the central government is going to take the control of the Catalan government and take the control of the police. Obviously, this is going to escalate the tension because there are some protests already organized for the days ahead. Some members of the Catalan government said already that some civil servants are not going to follow the rules of the central government, and we have to see if the Mossos d'Esquadra, the Catalan police, is going to follow the rules, or they are going to keep the neutrality. So I think that we have a very intense and interesting days ahead.
Yes, I mean, it's a very tense period. And I guess one of the things we have to remember is not everybody in that region wants to separate. I mean, we talk about the 90% in the referendum, the illegal referendum as Madrid sees it on the 1st of October, but that was only on a 43% turnout.
That's right. And, you know, in particular, business leaders are very worried about this. They do not want this. And remember, Spain is coming out of a deep economic crisis and severe austerity measures. And I think that's part of what led to what we see today. Catalonia is Spain's wealthiest region, accounting for about a fifth of the Spanish economy. Was demanding a better fiscal deal in the wake of this severe austerity. And I think it may have been a miscalculation by Rajoy that, as the economy recovered, and indeed the Spanish economy is doing much better now, that the forces for separation would weaken. But that just hasn't happened. You still have shockingly high unemployment, Spain-wide as well as in Catalonia. And I think ironically, now what you have is, more than 1,000 companies moving their headquarters out of Catalonia to other regions. And that means that, tax receipts to the region will decline. And that the key plank for the Catalonian separatist movement was that we're wealthy enough to go it on our own, has now been weakened severely because, businesses are decamping. And I think that's the real question going forward. No one will recognize Catalonia. They don't seem to have a plan. No one's ever spoken about a currency for Catalonia. And so I think whatever happens on December 21st, whoever wins, whoever gets the upper hand, I think the instability will remain, and I think that will be a damper on the economy.
I think that you made a very good point, because it's true that more than 1,000 companies moved their headquarters from Catalonia to other places in Spain. And of course, the economical consequences of Catalonia are going to be the economical consequences for the whole Spain. And thank you very much for reminding that the vast majority of the Catalonia people support this independence, because in the last Catalonian election, we showed that the separatist parties had the 48% of the vote, and in the illegal referendum of the last 1st of October, the turnout was just the 48%. But bearing in mind that it was an illegal referendum, we have to take these numbers with a pinch of salt, and I think that it's going to be very interesting if the silent majority that a lot of people said in Catalonia, we are going to see finally this silent majority voting in this Catalan election.
This is all about legitimacy, isn't it? I mean, if Rajoy is so confident that the majority in Catalonia don't want independence, he should put it to the test and the argument's over. In fact, this situation, of course, every situation is new, but this goes back decades. In 1931, Catalans demanded autonomy, and Primo de Rivera said no. They called local elections, got an overwhelming majority for an autonomy statute, got the statute, which was taken away by Franco. Absolutely. And they didn't get it again till 1979. Absolutely. So we have to remember this situation, however the immediate crisis is resolved, is not going to go away, because it has profound roots. And it has profound roots also in the question of whether the Spanish constitution functions for everybody. And raises the question of, what is the law for, and who does the state belong to? If the state belongs to, the machinery of state, then you're constantly going to have these disaffected communities that are seeking a way to legitimize themselves. And does the state belong to the people or not? If so, how do you test it? And that's the situation.
Yes, and Thomas, a thought about the rest of the EU as well, who, as Stephanie alluded to, were very quick to come out and defend Spanish unity.
But obviously, for the purpose of maintaining Spanish unity, you have to redefine what the constitution means. If Catalonia thinks that they got a bad deal out of being called autonomous since '79, obviously you have to discuss this. But of course, what I think is so difficult to understand for me in this independence drive, if economic grievances are one of the main reasons, as Stephanie outlined, for their protest, they're going to make it more difficult for themselves as a result of the unilateral declaration of independence. It's not going to be a bed of roses. On the contrary, their own situation will deteriorate dramatically. And obviously Rajoy is banking, when you think about the 21st of December vote, that most of the intelligent Catalans Catalans will recognise that they are really on a very stiff wicket here and will then rally behind the unitary voices. But of course it's a big gamble, because you cannot be sure that Catalonia on the 21st of December will actually vote for maintaining unity. It could go the other way, and then what will you have then? You will really have a pretty nasty situation. You allowed a referendum, a legal referendum called an election, to go ahead, and the result of that election is, no, we want independence.
I'm not sure that the economic argument carries the day. It didn't really weigh in Scotland. It certainly didn't weigh in Brexit, where we're undoubtedly going to be poor from leaving the European Union. And you could have argued that in Yugoslavia, you know, but Serbia, Croatia. I mean, nobody, if you want greater control of your own affairs, those arguments sound abstract. And you know, the prerequisite of a nationalist movement is a kind of confidence in identity. And look at Europe in the last 25 years. How many new states do we have? Look at, you know, the Baltic states. Look at Czechoslovakia, you know, Czech Republic and Slovakia. We have accepted these redefinitions of national boundaries for 30 years, and the Catalans have a very strong case. They're bigger than Portugal.
With respect, the comparison to the Brexit case doesn't quite sort of convince me, because Brexit was taken as a decision of a unitary country called Great Britain to exit the EU.
No, Thomas,
now,
my point was that the financial argument doesn't necessarily weigh in a discussion such as this. I'm not making a direct parallel. Take Scotland.
It's probably stronger in the case of Catalonia, because that is a country within Spain, and if they, as it were, deny themselves the advantages of being being part of the unity of the country, they really face an economic crisis of such a huge proportion that really it is totally unconscionable.
But that would depend on whether finally the EU would accept them as a member, which in all conscience they should if you get there by a constitutional process. And it wouldn't do the EU any good either to have a collapsing Catalonia.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And then Celia, just on this topic, a final thought from you. I am going to ask you to take out your crystal ball, because we've got a couple of months. As things stand this weekend, as we are discussing it all, what is your sense of what we could be looking at on the 21st of December?
Well, I wish
Big question, I know, but...
I think it's going to be very important, as I say, the way that the separatist parties are going to present to their voters this election. And having said that, I think it's going to be crucial, important to see the results, because obviously I think that right now the majority of the Catalan people don't want to see the independence, according to the last Catalan election and according to the last illegal referendum. But it is obvious that 2 million of Catalan people are not happy there. So obviously the results of this election are going to be vital to see what is going to be the situation in the near future for the Catalonian. And obviously if the results shows that there is a big support for the kind of dialogue with Madrid in terms of another referendum, legal referendum or something like that, I think maybe it is the time to discuss the constitution. But I think that there is, according to the polls, there are some perception that the constitutional parties are going to win this election.
Okay, well, it is a waiting game now, isn't it? We watch, we wait, we listen, and we will discuss again before that date, I'm quite sure. Thank you, Celia, for now. And
you didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.